Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 20 career mode here for our third season in the MotoGP class. And this episode we've got the fourth round of the season at Jerez, so we've got to advance that point first as well, but there's not particularly much we'll be able to do between this 1 week off. So we actually have got something on the technical staff, and we've just lost a lot of money again, so we're now down to 129,000. Obviously we had to pay some wages, so we are very, very close to that going negative, but I don't think it's going to be long before we actually go bankrupt because we have been struggling a lot due to the lack of performance from the junior teams. I'm hoping that returning to Europe, their pace might improve a little bit, and I don't think it will. I think we are a little bit stuck here, but let's have a look at this notification on technical staff then. So we've got a new chief engineer available, one that is slightly cheaper, and that might be something we have to start considering, perhaps just trying to save a bit, because I mean annually we save 46,000, although I suppose annually that's not a lot really, because even though we are struggling, it's not actually a massive amount. I don't think it's the staff at the Avintia team really that is costing us the cash, it's more the actual running of the junior teams and the travel costs and things like that. But there's no more notifications on any of the other fronts. We can't do any upgrades because they haven't got enough research data. So the next thing to do is to head into the Moto3 race here at Jerez. I'll see you down on the grid, and I'm hoping that they can both try and get the objective because we really do need the money. So then, Manuel Hernandez is 9th place on the grid, and Johnny Stewart then in 8th place. So both outside of the qualifying objective, unfortunately, but it is actually a wet weekend. It's fully wet, so I think the bug is still sort of present where all the sessions are exactly the same weather. I know obviously that can happen, like it can be just a fully wet weekend, but for like the last season, it's just been one weather condition for literally the entire weekend. So whether that be cloudy, sunny, rainy, light rain, whatever, it's just been every single session has been the same, and that didn't used to happen really. So I think that is a glitch where you just get the same weather every single session. But let's get this race started then. Hopefully they can both try and get in the top 5, but I'm not getting my hopes up too much because only one of them's done it so far. So then we are watching Manuel Hernandez in 9th. I'll swap to Johnny Stewart in 8th, but they obviously are both side by side. But lights out, and away we go. Yama Macias actually had a pretty good start up into the lead there. But Johnny Stewart's down to 9th place. Manuel Hernandez must be down to 10th place then. So they've both lost a position off the line as they go down towards the first corner. Just got to get through the first few corners in a Moto3 race, especially when it is raining. It can be very, very treacherous. So Stewart down into 10th, Manuel down to 11th. But Manuel at the inside of the two Leopards and his teammates, so almost go 4 wide there for our bikes and the two Leopards. So up into, well, they were up into 9th and 10th again briefly, and they still are in 9th and 10th. So Manuel Hernandez is in 9th, he's just slotted in behind Dennis Foggia, and Johnny Stewart is right behind him as well. You've got to watch out on the outside of that corner. It's very easy for the AI to go on the grass and have a big crash there. Not for the players so much, but the AI tend to do it quite a bit. So Manuel sat in 9th place, and I think Stewart's just lost another couple of places down into 11th place now because Ricardo Rossi has gone around the outside of him. Manuel still sat in behind Dennis Foggia. Looks like he's probably going to go for a move down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner, and at the same time, I think Stewart is going for a move on Ricardo Rossi. But actually, Rossi's broke very late. He's going around the outside of Hernandez now. So Ricardo Rossi seems to be a bit of a wet weather specialist here because I've not mentioned him at all, I don't think, in this career mode. And there he goes up the inside, and Manuel Hernandez up into 9th place. So Ricardo Rossi on an absolute tear so far. Amazing start for him. I'm not sure whereabouts on the grid he started, but he's usually down in the back. Like I said, I haven't really mentioned him at all in any of the races we've done in Moto3. But there he is in front of both of my bikes right now. And Stewart now looks like he's under pressure from Andy Farad Isnahar. So there really is some kind of weird thing going on in this race. Some of the AI coming through from the back. And look like they are really, really attacking our riders here. So currently still sat in 10th and 11th place. That's not going to be enough. That's not going to pay the bills. I really hope they can try and up the pace a little bit. And there, up the inside, is, I think, is that Davide Pizzoli? Actually, no, Davide Pizzoli's not on the grid anymore, is he? I don't know where I've got that from. It is still Ricardo Rossi. I just saw one of the BOE bikes and just kind of thought the first BOE rider that came to mind. But Hernandez has managed to find his way past Ricardo Rossi now. He's right behind Jeremy Alcoba, so he's got to be a bit careful that he doesn't get taken out by him. And Stewart up the inside of Ricardo Rossi as well, now up into 10th place. So Ricardo Rossi dropping back a little bit after that pretty good start. I think he's going to go behind Isdahar as well. Yes, he is. So poor old Ricardo dropping through the order. But here comes Hernandez. He's looking at the inside of Alcoba. He's not managed to do it there, unfortunately. But now Stewart is closing up to the back of the two Hondas in front of him. So maybe Stewart will make a pass on his teammate, and maybe he will be able to have an attack on Jeremy Alcoba. But for now, still sat in 9th and 10th. The same scenario, really, that they get stuck behind someone that's a little bit slower and they just can't make the pass. The AI are quite frustrating to watch sometimes. So they're just starting the penultimate lap here then, and literally nothing has happened. They have just been sat processionally. They now seem to be closing up to Mino, and they also have one of the 658 bikes behind them, I think it's Lorenzo Fallon, is actually catching them up. But the last couple of laps, they've just been in absolute no man's land. They seem to have just gained a load of speed out of nowhere. They are closing up to the back of Mino, and they are also being hunted down by Lorenzo Fallon. And also I realised afterwards that it wasn't Andy Faraday's start, it was his teammate, Yuki Kuni, behind them, not Andy Farad, so my mistake there. But Manuel Hernandez might actually have a shot at getting 8th place off Andrea Mino here. The race has turned on its head. It's all of a sudden exciting again, because Hernandez has gone up the inside of Andrea Mino. Can he pull it off into the Dani Pedrosa corner? No, he actually couldn't pull it off, but he's still on the inside. Get up the power. Go on, Manuel. Go on, because Lorenzo Fallon is coming up behind, and he'll be making a move if you're not careful. That'd be a risky place to make a pass, and I'm glad he didn't go for it there into that left-hander. That could have been pretty nasty, but hopefully they could both try and pass Mino as soon as they can, just pick off another position, because look, Fallon is all over the back of them now. He's come from behind, and he looks like he's going to be making a move on Johnny Stewart very shortly, but Stewart's going to the inside of Mino, and round the outside goes Hernandez. Stewart couldn't quite pull it off, but Mino goes a little bit wide. Has Stewart now got through? They're swapped back behind. No, not quite. But Mino looks like he is going to lose a position to Stewart in a minute, surely. Up the inside goes Stewart. Stewart through. It looks like Lorenzo Fallon is going to try and follow straight through as well. Fallon up the inside. Oh, that was close. Thought he was trying to go past both of them at the same time there. Not quite. But he's gone past Mino. Mino being shuffled backwards. So Manuel Hernandez now up into 8th place. Johnny Stewart up into 9th. But it's not over for Stewart, that's for sure. I think Hernandez should be okay. He's too far behind now, Cobra. He's got probably enough of a lead over Stewart, but well, I was about to say he's got enough of a lead over Stewart behind, but Stewart's now closer to him than Fallon is to him, so it's changing literally every second here in this Moto3 race. So absolutely anything could happen on this final lap. I just hope that my two riders don't cost each other a position like they have in the past. I think Jackson and Hernandez have cost themselves positions while battling before, so I'm just hoping that Stewart and Hernandez don't do the same thing. Down towards the Dani Pedrosa corner. Stewart looks like he's looking at the inside. Oh, I thought he was going to go for that one then. They kind of pull out and look like they're going to make a move on the brakes, but they just don't go for it. I don't understand why they do that so much. It costs some time because you just end up having to sort of pull back onto the racing line. You just go slower. So don't know why they don't ever try the move, but I'm glad there was no collision or anything like that. But Stewart has got Fallon all over the back of him, so it seems like this section is where Fallon was faster, because this is where he caught them up on the last lap, and he's got a little bit closer again on this one. So as long as Stewart can just keep in front of him, we've got this 8th and 9th places secure, which is still not fantastic, to be honest, because it's not on the objective. We really need top 5 finishes, but if this is what they can bring home, it's better than crashing out, that's for sure, and they're in the top 10 as well, so it's not the end of the world. Last season I would have been, fairly okay with this, because that would have met our objective, but as they come down then towards the final corner, the Jorge Lorenzo corner, I think they are going to hold on to 8th and 9th places. So as they go through the final corner then, Manuel Hernandez is going to come home in P8, with Johnny Stewart, his teammate, right behind him in 9th, and Lorenzo Fallon really harassing them to the end, and Mino, I've just seen in the background, dropped down so far. So then, in the end, John McPhee actually ended up winning the race ahead of Yam and Masia. So McPhee managed to actually catch and pass Masia, because Masia was the one leading, I think, for the majority of that. Well, for the bit I saw anyway, till my riders went too far behind and I couldn't see the leaders anymore. So Petronas really dominating in this season at the minute. Sergio Garcia ends up on the podium, with Darren Binder in 4th place. Obviously, like I said, 8th and 9th places for both of our riders. Let's see what that's done to the Riders' Championship. So quite a bit of movement actually in the championship, because so early on in the season a good result can really move you around quite a lot. So McPhee moves up to 2nd, Masia up to 3rd, Al Cobra and Suzuki both move down a few positions, Garcia jumps ahead of Mino, Johnny Stewart only a couple of points behind Mino, so he's pretty close to that 7th place in the championship, and Manuel Hernandez only 3 points behind Johnny Stewart as well. So as much as Stewart had that amazing ride in Austin, the riders actually have been pretty well balanced so far, only 3 points in it after 4 races. Pretty close, and they got 10 points back to Lorenzo Fallon. So yeah, Fallon has really been harassing them throughout the season, just like he was on the dying couple of laps there. Unfortunately, we actually moved down in the Teams Championship, because after a bad race for the IO team in Argentina, they've come back. Obviously, Masia getting that 2nd position. They've jumped ahead of us and Grassini here. So we're down into 5th place now, but only 2 points behind Grassini, 4 points behind Red Bull KTM IO. So we actually could fight for that 3rd place in the Teams Championship, because we're only 6 points off it, which is actually would be really, really good, considering we got 5th last season, which was a really nice base. If we could get in the top 3, that would be absolutely fantastic. The progress from last season has been pretty good. It's just that our objectives are extremely high. I've made a big mistake, really, for going for the Parts of Europe. Should have stuck with DHL, but I kind of thought that we'd make that step up and be able to get consistent top 5s, because we were at the end of last season getting top 5s. But unfortunately, it's not been the case so far. But it's still a lot to play for in the Teams Championship. We're not miles away from that third place. Petronas are absolutely leaving everybody else in the dust. They've got a 63-point lead over 658, who only have 78 points themselves. So Petronas are definitely going to win this one, and I think 658 are fairly far in front of the other teams as well. So I think it is the battle for third place. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out throughout the rest of the season. So that's one junior race down then. Let's head into Moto 2, see how they got on in qualifying, and hopefully they can have a pretty good race, because the rain might actually balance out how poor the bike is. So then, Daisy Jackson has qualified in 18th position here for the Spanish Grand Prix, and Akagi up in 8th place. So Akagi really has been doing a good job so far this season. Of course, he's picked up the only points we've had, but he's been qualifying well. Obviously, he got pole in the last episode. He's been racing his absolute heart out. So I'm hoping he can actually get a pretty decent finish here, because of course it is wet. So hopefully that will offset the poor bike performance a little bit. But I'm a little bit disappointed with Jackson. I expected a little bit more from her in this season because of how well she was in Moto 3. And I also thought that she was supposed to be really good in Moto 2. But Akagi obviously has got a higher rating, so I did expect him to be a little bit better. But let's get this race started. I'm hoping that he can try and bring us some points, but I'm not counting on it. It probably won't happen, but if he can bring us some points, I'd be pretty happy with that. So then swapping to Akagi, we've got Remy Gardner on pole, Sam Lowes alongside Joe Roberts on the other side of the front row, but lights out and away we go. Akagi off to yet another good start. He's almost side by side with Digi Antonio. They're trying to get a bit of a slipstream as they go down towards the first corner. Remy Gardner's absolutely gapped the field as they go into the first corner. Akagi's up to 6th position. He's going around the outside, I think, of one of the other speed-up bikes. I think it was Aaron Canet. He didn't quite manage to do it. And a bit of contact with Jake Dixon there in the middle of the pack. He's sandwiched between both the Petronas boys, but he's up to 6th place. It's been a pretty good start for him. Let's just quickly see where Jackson is. Jackson down in 18th, so I think she's just basically stayed where she started. But Akagi's out to 5th place. He's right behind Aaron Canet now. Can he try and make a position and get up into 4th place? That would be absolutely fantastic. Of course, he led for a couple of corners in Termas, and up the inside he goes off Canet up into 4th place. Canet running it around the outside through the Cito Ponds corner, but he's not going to be able to hold on to it, is he? No. So Akagi up into 4th position here. Absolutely fantastic. So as they go down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner, then here comes Jake Dixon on the inside with that better straight line speed. There's a big crash in the background. Big crash, couple of riders down. Let's see if we can get the aftermath of it with Daisy Jackson. Sorry, losing my words here with all the action going on. But there's a big crash. It didn't involve Jackson this time, so fortunately, no crash for Jackson. I did actually see back on the footage afterwards, but Dixon goes up the inside of Akagi. So as I was saying that, Dixon goes through past Akagi, and now Tom Luthi is the next rider behind Akagi. But I did see the crash whilst editing the video afterwards. I did see it was through turn 4, as I suspected, with a little bit of contact with Ayagora. So it was unfortunate for Jackson to crash out of the Argentinian Grand Prix like that. But Akagi still hanging on in 5th place here. It is a 6-lap race, so it is a long, long time. But he's made up positions on the first lap, and I am very, very proud of him. He's been fantastic so far this season. The two Brits in front of him collide. Sam Lowes and Jake Dixon, a little bit of contact down towards the final corner. But out the last corner then, he's actually had a really good exit out of there. So well done to Akagi. That might offset his lack of straight line speed a little bit as we go down towards the first corner. And he's still in 5th place as they start the second lap. Absolutely amazing stuff. Here comes Luthi now. Luthi up the inside of Akagi through the Cito Ponds corner. Sort of what Akagi did to Canet on the previous lap. So down into 6th place for Tomatsu Akagi. But is he going to hold it around the outside? Yes, he is. Back up into 5th place. What a lad. What a legend. As we go down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner. Luthi back in front of him once again. But that was fantastic from Akagi. He really has been racing well. And I guess that's why he's got an A+ rating. But well done to Akagi. That was really brave defence. Of course, he didn't manage to keep the position, but the bike is pretty poor even in these wet conditions, so good attempt. I am happy with that. But he's now got Xavi Vierge all over the back of him. Then it's Tony Arbolino, and I think it's Nicola Balega trying to make a move on Tony Arbolino. But up the inside goes Vierge. Vierge up the inside, and that's forced Akagi a little bit wide. That might allow Balega up the inside as well. Not quite, so Balega just sat behind him, but a little bit wide then for Akagi as well. That might allow Balega through. Yes, it does. Balega now through. So down to 8th place for Akagi. So he is now slowly being shuffled back, but he's only back to where he qualified. So at the end of the second lap, he's still where he started the race. That's still pretty good. A bit of contact with Arbolino, though. Arbolino had a little bit of contact with him down towards the Hoy Lorenzo corner, but seems to have cost Arbolino more than it did Akagi. So that's probably going to help him out a little bit. Just give him a few bike lengths as Aaron Canet now seems to be attacking his old Moto 3 rival, Tony Arbolino. So Akagi still sat in 8th place, and Dixon does the fastest lap of the race up to 3rd place. So Jake Dixon on a charge here. He might be able to win this one. Obviously very good in the wet in real life, so seems to be transferred to the game. But Arbolino up the inside then of Akagi, and that's Akagi shuffled down into 9th place down with Canet right behind him. I'm hoping that he can keep in front of Canet because of course he passed him earlier on in the race, but that might be just down to his first lap skills. more than the actual bike pace, so Canet might have the actual bike advantage over him, even though of course they are both speed-up bikes. Canet's will be better because Akagi's is basically stock. It's only got one upgrade on, but hopefully he should have two after this weekend. In fact, I don't think the first upgrades are finished yet either, has it? So it is still a completely stock bike, but Canet goes up the inside into the Dani Pedrosa corner, and no, he actually wasn't able to do it on the brakes there, so Akagi hangs on to ninth for now. A little bit of contact though, that might have offset him a little bit, but no, Akagi for now still hangs on in front of Aaron Canet. Oh, Akagi puts his hand up though after a bit more contact once again, but it does seem in front that Sam Lowe is actually causing a little bit of a train here. You can see Tom Luthi and Nicolo Balega both attacking him, but Canet goes up the inside. Oh, there seems to be a favoured AI overtaking spot because he's lost quite a few places there as Akagi over the course of this race so far. But like I said, there is a bit of a train forming in front with Sam Lowe, so maybe there might be some more positions still up for grabs. They might be able to catch onto the back of that group at the end of the race, but Marcos Ramirez is now the rider behind Akagi, yet another Kalex rider, so he'll probably be able to get through without too many problems. I've just realised that I hadn't checked Jackson since the first lap, but she is down in 20th place just behind Cameron Bobier, so she is really struggling so far in this race, with Akagi still in 10th, but there is actually a big train on their way, and that is the train that Jackson is actually in, so they're pretty close to the back of actually Tomatsu, so Tomatsu's got to watch out that he doesn't get any damage or anything like that, because we've seen that in previous races where an AI does an aggressive move, gives them damage, and they absolutely drop like a stone. It's like Jackson had that at Austin. She actually was having a pretty good race then. So hopefully she can try and pick off a few riders in front of her, but really my focus is on Akagi right now because of course he is in 10th position. So to come up towards the line then to start the penultimate lap of the race, Akagi's still hanging on in front of Ramirez. He's kept him behind for an entire lap. That is some pretty impressive stuff. It looked like he was going for a move into the first corner there, but Ramirez couldn't quite pull it off. Fortunately, Fernandez behind having a little bit of a squirm as well on the rear end, but there goes Ramirez, so I spoke too soon really. I think I might have cursed him a little bit there. Ramirez goes through, down to 11th place for Akagi, but only a lap and a bit to go, so Fernandez gets through. He might be able to hang on to that 12th place, but again, I don't want to curse him or anything like that. I just really hope he can get a decent position because he really deserves it, bless him. But there goes Fernandez on cue, up the inside, through the Cito Pons corner. It's just the bike has absolutely no pace, so he just goes backwards after the start, but once again, he had a fantastic first lap, getting himself up into about 5th place, I think, at the best. He might have even been in 4th at one point. Just to quickly update where Jackson is, she's down in 26th now, so I'm not sure what's happened since the last time we looked at her, because it was on the same lap and she was in 20th, so I think she must have been nerfed wide by someone. And Albert Arenas is going for a pretty aggressive move on her there, so Jackson really struggling to adapt here to Moto2. If obviously this continues, she might have to go back to our Moto3 team for the next season. But as we swap back to Akagi, he's in 12th place, he's in no man's land, he's got a massive gap in front of him, fairly big gap behind him, so he's just got to bring this one on home, and it'll be an absolutely fantastic result, the best result of the season by a long way. I think 15th is his best finish so far, which I know is only 3 places, but this race has been so much better than that Austin one. He struggled throughout and just managed to pick it off at the end in that one, whereas in this one, he's been fast. He's been fast throughout. Digi Antonio, though, is closing up to him. Digi Antonio has gone at the inside to Cito Pons, so wow, he's come from absolutely nowhere. The Grassini bikes have got some pace because Balega has just done the fastest lap as well. Well, he must have done it a while ago, but it's only just popped up now. But Digi Antonio up the inside of Akagi. So unfortunately, Akagi's now at the 13th, but he has got a pretty big gap back to Bo Benschneider now. So that should be enough, hopefully. I hope I haven't cursed him again, because I feel like I've been cursing him throughout this race. But I think he should have this one. I don't think he should lose that much time. So through the final turn, Benschneider has caught him up a massive amount, but it's not going to quite be enough for Bo. So on towards the line then, Akagi is going to bring home 13th place. What a ride from Tomatsu Akagi. There's a big crash again at the last corner, one of the NTS bikes. So Daisy Jackson ends up in 24th. She must have just picked up the pieces from that one. So then, at the end then, Joe Roberts won the race, with Nicolo Balega in 2nd, Thomas Luthi in 3rd. So he's having an amazing season on the Mandalika bike. Compared to real life, he's doing absolutely fantastically. With Sam Lowe's in 4th place then, Jake Dixon ends up in 6th. So after that charge he was on, he was clashed up to the leaders, he must have burnt his tyres out a little bit. Tommaso Akagi ends up in 13th. I can't say it enough, a fantastic ride there, bringing us some more points on the board. And down in 24th place, Daisy Jackson, but she did beat Cambobier, which she's not been that close to him as of later. He's been sort of 15th-ish, he's 25th this time. So Jackson not too bad, I suppose, but unfortunate she didn't quite have the pace of her teammate. And it seems like Aranas, Barry Boltus, Lorenzo Dalla Porta and Hector Garzo are the riders that retired. So I'm guessing Garzo and Dalla Porta must have been the riders that crashed in the first lap. And I'm guessing Arenas was collected with Boltus at the final turn. So that would be how Jackson gained 2 places there, it'd be from those 2 riders falling off. In the championship then, Joe Roberts, I didn't even realise he was leading it, but he's leading it 12 points ahead of Tony Arbolino. Tom Luthi in 3rd place, Bezecchi 4th, Sam Lowe's in 5th, and Jake Dixon in 6th place. Let's see where our riders are. They are going to be pretty far down the order. So Daisy Jackson in 31st place. She moves down 2 places. She's only beating Raul Fernandez, who is having a terrible season compared to his real-life form. Akagi actually drops down a position in the championship down to 23rd. I'm guessing that's because someone in front of him must have had a great race, Marcos Ramirez, yeah. But now 4 points on the board for Tomatsu Akagi, so that is pretty nice to see. In the Teams Championship then, Intact GP lead ahead of Italtrans, 4 points in it there, and Mark VDS move up to 3rd. Let's see where we are sitting. We're in 15th place. We've actually lost a position again, so we're just beating the MV Agusta team. We're actually the last of the scoring teams, unfortunately, so we have been struggling a lot this season, but I'm hoping that we should be able to put some bike upgrades on at the end of this episode. That should really help them out. They should be a little bit quicker then, and they might actually stand a chance, because Akagi, he's been doing absolute bits so far. So unfortunately, no objectives met so far this weekend, so it's not going to be a great payday for the team. But we've still got the MotoGP race to go, so let's see what I can do. It is wet, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging than I expected, but the AI are not great at Jerez, so hopefully we should be able to pick off some riders, but of course the wet conditions will probably play a little bit of havoc with that. So then, Maverick Vinales puts his bike on pole position for the Spanish Grand Prix, with Marc Marquez alongside, so I think Marquez is going to be the danger man here. He'll probably pass Vinales and he'll try and bolt like he does in this career mode quite a bit. And then we've got Fabio Quartararo down in 10th place. So a bit of a distinction between the 2 Yamahas there, even though you'd expect them to have fairly similar performance. Unfortunately, the medium tyre is actually the hardest thing we can put on, so that's what I'm going to have to go for. I think we are going to struggle with tyres in this one once again. Probably not quite to the degree we did in Argentina, but in the wet in this game, the tyres spin up a lot and they overheat a lot as well, even though it's constantly raining. So usually you don't have that much of a problem unless the track is drying with overheating the rain tyres, but the rain tyres do overheat a lot in this game, so I'm hoping it won't be a big issue and it won't affect us too badly, but it could do. So I want to try and get back on the podium after that 5th place in the last race. I wasn't too happy with that one, so we've got to avoid the contact. Hopefully we don't get any damage, but let's get this race started and see what I can do.
Just a few moments to go until the start of the Spanish Grand Prix. These riders know it will be vitally important to take the first curve perfectly.
So then, it's actually Jorge Martin then on the front row off the grid, which is quite interesting to see with Zarco right behind him. So the 2 Pramac boys right at the front, but waiting for the lights to go out here. Lights out and away we go off the line. Try to get a decent start, but there's going to be absolutely no grip as we go around the first few corners on this lap. In fact, probably the first couple of laps there'll be absolutely no grip. I've braked very early for the first corner. You can see the rear end, there is absolutely no grip. You turn in, the bike just slides out from underneath you. The wet weather is absolutely horrible in this game sometimes, because sometimes there's no temperature in the tyres. It'd be nice to actually have a formation lap so you could put a bit of temperature in them. But we're up into 21st and we've passed a couple of the AI riders. They're going to be all struggling for grip as well. I got on the grass a little bit there and sort of blocked Savadori. Didn't mean to go on the grass. Just tried to keep a tight line so I didn't lose the rear as much, and I accidentally rode onto the grass there. But through then the Cito Pons corner, I'm going to drop down to last place again because I've got absolutely no grip. Savadori goes past me. Lecuona goes past me. But hopefully we can pass a couple of riders down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner on the brakes. I might have gotten a little bit hot actually. No, actually, we're all good still. The grip though is not good. The rear tyre is getting up to temperature a little bit, which is nice to see as we go around the outside on the KTMs. There's no grip, almost on the grass. I had to lift off the power. There is no grip on the rear end here, and Savadori's back at the inside again. We're still down in last place at the end of, well, not the end of the first lap, but 3/4 of the way around the first lap almost. And there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to be able to make any positions because I can't even turn the bike into the corners, and neither can the AI by the looks of it. This is where you want to make up the positions on the opening lap, but everybody's struggling so much. Brad Binder goes wide there. Savadori finds his way past him. I'm past Binder now as well, so Binder is now down to last place. Savadori and Lecuona in front of me, both with big moments, and I couldn't capitalise because there just wasn't enough room to squeeze through. I'm in 3rd gear, probably the wrong gear, but I'm just trying to actually get out the corners without high-siding, to be honest with you. So through this last corner then, the Jorge Lorenzo corner, I've got the bike sat up pretty well out of there, so up into 20th place, so we've made up 3 positions on this opening lap. Usually I'm up into the top 10 by the end of the opening lap, so a bit of a disaster. Up the inside of Martino Marini, up the inside of Danilo Petrucci. The front end has got no grip as well as the rear end, so this is going to be pretty similar to the last race. I'm hoping I could try and put a bit of temperature in, but it is so difficult in the wet, fully wet conditions on this game because there's just no grip whatsoever, no temperature in the tyres as well. So I'm hoping that will be kind of addressed from MotoGP 21. You're actually able to put heat into your tyres in the wet conditions, because it's impossible on this game. With a stock setup at least anyway, you might want to put a setup on that puts more weight on the front or something to heat it up a little bit. But we've gone past Aleix Espargaro whilst I'm wittering about that, so up into 17th place. Bastianini, my other teammate ahead of me. Then it's Fabio Quartararo. The rear tyre is actually getting a little bit of temperature in it now, so the rear tyre is not quite as bad, so which you can kind of get out the corners. Well, I say that, look how much it slid then, but the front tyre is still atrocious as we go past, and then Bastianini then going to swoop around the outside. So again, the rear is still starting up, but a lot more grip than the previous laps. I'm hoping that as the race goes on, we should be able to pick up a bit of temperature and a bit more grip as well. So we've got Quartararo right ahead of us. Then it's Alex Marquez. I can see Rossi a couple of spaces up the road. I think that's Pol Espargaro as well. Hopefully Marc Marquez is not in the lead, or at least not pulling away in the lead, because we have got a long race here, 13 laps. So if I can get the temperature in the tyres, I might be able to start making my way through the pack, but I feel like this is going to be another one where we're going to struggle to get a decent result. Through the penultimate turn then, Ferrari down towards the last corner. We've gone past Fabio Quartararo. So we go into the Lorenzo corner, almost hitting Alex Marquez up the back though. That's going to allow Quartararo back through, surely. Not quite actually. We're on a bit of a better line as well, because I didn't have to lean over quite as far. So he's coming towards the line then. I'm not actually being given the indication for who's in the lead. It's not bringing the timing tower up, but it did say Jorge Martin did the fastest lap, so I'm going to assume it's probably him, which is really, really good for the rookie. In his fourth race, he's leading. We've got Alex Marquez right ahead of us then. Well, actually, I say he's rookie, but in this career mode, he was in it the last season, wasn't he, actually? So forget that I said that. Forget that I said that. I'm thinking that, of course, it's 2021 in real life and he's a rookie, but he was in the Pramac team in the last season of this career mode, so he's not actually a rookie as far as this save goes. So through Sito Ponte, and I'm losing the rear end to Alex Marquez. Well, not to Alex Marquez, but Watson behind Alex Marquez. Trying to get in his slipstream though. We should be able to pass him, and then hopefully we can get past Pol Espargaro as well, and we're kind of making our way up towards the top 10 then. A little bit of contact though with Alex Marquez. I think I didn't really leave him much room then. I think he wanted to come over a little bit more to the right hand side. So we're up into 14th then. Just ahead of us is Pol Espargaro, then it's Rossi, then it's Miller. So we've got three pretty fast bikes in front of us. And I think it might be Nakagami in front of Miller, but I'm not going to look too far up the road yet. We actually are struggling with overheating now on the left-hand side because of the amount of sliding we're getting. So, yeah, that is the trouble with tyre temperatures sometimes in this game. It's very difficult to manage them, which is good because it's like that in real life as well. But in the rain, it's extremely difficult. So here we go then, down towards the last corner. We should be able to get the move here done on Pol Espargaro up the inside. Yes, we do. We're going to go in a little bit hot. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I thought I was going to go in hot, but I didn't. Hopefully we can try to get Rossi out of here as well. Getting on the power nice and early. Martin again does the fastest lap of 42.6. What am I going to do as we come up towards the line? 42.9. So actually a few tenths slower. And it's actually Bagnaia in front of us, not Miller. I thought it was Miller, but actually it's Bagnaia. Bagnaia's a little bit further down the order in this race, whereas Miller's a bit closer to the front. And there is actually a breakaway at the front. Jorge Martin, I think, must be one of those riders setting, times that are a few tenths quicker than mine. Marc Marquez is probably the other, so I think it might be third place. It's going to be the best we can get here because it looks like two riders on the minimap have pulled away. So we've got Bagnaia in front of us. Hopefully we can try and pass him on the run into the Dani Pedrosa corner. Then it's Nakagami, then it's Rins. Then I think it must be Zarco in front if Martin is leading the race. So here we go on Bagnaia. Bagnaia moved over a little bit last second. I forget that the AI actually do that, so I think that's why I clipped Alex Marquez, because he moves over right at the end. But we've passed Bagnaia now, up into 11th. So we're almost in the top 10, but it's taken us 4 laps to get to this point. Well, not 4 full laps, but we're on lap 4. And I was going to go the inside of Nakagami there because he lost the rear previously, but we may as well play it safe. There's no point making a mistake and losing ground because it's going to be difficult to make ground up in this race. So I would rather sit behind him for a few more corners than lose time, whereas normally I'd rather get in front of him and just risk it because I know I can make the time if I made a mistake. So Miller now does the fastest lap, 42.6. I do a 43.0, so a little bit slower than the previous lap. And I have now resorted to power mode 0 just to try and save that rear tyre a little bit more because I don't want to overheat it and spin up too much. We're right on the back of Nakagami now then. We're on the wrong side of him really. He got a really bad exit out of there, but I was going to have to go around the right side, which just wasn't going to work. So we're still stuck behind Takagi, but he definitely is holding me up a little bit now. Hopefully we can try and make the move down towards the Dani Pedrosa corner. We've made quite a few passes there in this race so far. And we're pretty close to him. I might go for Rins as well because they're very, very close to each other. We'll have to see how early they break. Actually, I don't even think I'm going to get Nakagami now I said that. But going around the outside of Nakagami, Oh, no, not quite. I think Nakagami looked for a move on Rins, couldn't quite do it, but we've got the power out of here. Surely we're going to get past Takaki now. Around the outside of him. No, he's still got it, but might be able to cut back up the inside. Yes, we can, and we might be able to get Rins as well, because we've really got the line. I'm just going to go for it up the inside. No, Rins managed to actually outbrake me a little bit there. I guess that's what happens when I've got no grip on the front once again, just like in Argentina, but we've got the power. Can we get up the inside? Oh, no, Alex Rins still in front of us then, so into the top 10 finally, but still stuck behind Rins. But there is a big pack actually in front of us that should take us up to around about the podium, so I think we could probably work our way through this group. So out of the last corner then, we've actually got a pretty good drive. Martin does the fastest lap once again at 42.3. So as we come up towards the first corner then, round the outside of Alex Rins, we're going very, very hot. Thought I was going to hit Zarco at the back then, but not quite. So we've got past Rins now, up into 9th place. Zarco is up next. So Zarco did do the fastest lap and won the lap, so we must have pretty decent pace. Martin is a little bit quicker than me, of course, but I'm not really focusing on Martin. I think he's going to win this one. But wow, I sort of passed Zarco out of nowhere. We kind of sat him up a little bit actually there, because we were side by side with him. But I wasn't expecting to pass him there. I was kind of waiting to do the usual move down towards the, not the Hoyler end, to the Danny Pedrosa corner, but I passed him earlier than I expected, and the rear end slides mid-corner there. It almost seems as we're getting towards half-race distance, I actually might have a little bit of something now on the rear end, a little bit more grip, so we might have to make our way past a few more riders. We've got 3 riders in front of us. That should take us up into 5th place. Oliveira leading, and the 2 Yamahas in front of us, of course, with Morbidelli and Vinales. We've passed the other 2 Yamahas already. Actually, have we? Yeah, we have passed Quartararo. I was trying to remember when we passed him, but he was actually the one in last place. So Quartararo is struggling in this one in the rain. And then there's a few big gaps actually ahead of this group, so it might be a little bit lonely after this one. Hopefully I maybe could try and cool the tyre down if we can get in front of these 3, but I said the same thing in Argentina, I remember, getting behind, well, actually Morbidelli and Vinales. Oliveira, of course, wasn't there, but Quartararo was, so it was almost the same scenario, and I was like, once I get past these, I'll save the tyre, but I never did, so I'll try and make the moves as quickly as I can. We should be able to get Morbidelli out of here, though, unless I go in too hot, which I have done. Although I might be able to get the switch back still. Oh, is that Bagnaia behind us? Bagniai's made good progress. He's passed a few of the riders that I've passed then. But in the slipstream then of Morbidelli, we should be able to get him down towards the first corner, using a lot of rear brake, because the front brake is not going to be too good when there's no temperature in the front tyre. But we've got past Morbidelli now then. Vinales up next, then it's Oliveira, and then I think it must be Joan Mir ahead of him, but there's a bit of a gap to Mir. Here we go then, we've got the run compared to Maverick Vinales. I'm going to try and send it up the inside here. Oh, not quite through turn 4. We're not able to get him on the run towards Cito Pons though. Going to have the inside through Cito Pons. Oh, I just didn't want to hit the back of Oliveira, and the rear slid out as well because I went down to first gear just to try and get the power, so that wasn't the best move to be honest, and it might actually stop me from getting a run down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner because I went down a gear and lost so much time. I was just trying to get the power out, but I just completely, ignored the fact that the rear would slide so much because of the lack of grip right now. But we might be able to get the cut back underneath Vinales like we did to Nakagami. Oh, we all lost the rear end, all 3 of us then. That could have been an absolutely horrendous accident. We've got past Vinales now, I think. Oliveira then in 5th place, just ahead of us. Hopefully we can get past Miguel, and then we can start looking at maybe trying to bridge the gap to Joan Mir. Vinales tried to get the inside there. I got flashbacks to the last race where he rammed me and gave me damage. But there's still half the race to go almost, because we're about to finish lap 7. So we've just gone past half distance on this lap actually, because it'd be 6.5 laps would be half distance. So we've not long gone past half distance. We are going to be up into 5th place, so it could be doable, but there's some big gaps in front. So I think the rest of the race is going to be fairly lonely if we can get past Miguel. And you know what, I'm just going to stick up with Palmo 2 and just try and blast past him on this straight, because we've got so much fuel in reserve because we've been running 0 for so long. Past Oliveira then, up into 5th place, and we finally got into the top 5 of the race, although the rear, no grippers to try and turn in. So now there is a big gap to Joan Mir. I want to see what it is at the first intermediate point. I've gone in very, very wide again though. So we're 3.2 seconds behind Mir. That's what we got to make. Got to put my head down and see what I can do. There's a crash for Quartararo then behind. So Fabio Quartararo's hit the deck in this very tricky race. Oh, Petrucci's down as well, so it seems like there's been a couple of crashes in quick succession. Maybe Petrucci's hit Quartararo's bike, but as you can see, I'm not catching Mir at all, and all of a sudden, on this lap, I've really struggled with the rear tyre, and Vinales is actually starting to catch me up, so I'm actually in a little bit of trouble here. I actually did a really good lap on the previous one and caught up to Mir quite a bit, and I think I stressed my rear tyre doing that, and it was probably a mistake, and now I'm running wide everywhere, sliding out of corners, and Vinales has virtually caught the entire gap up to me that I had over him. was around 2 seconds. So as we come out of the final turn and about to start the last lap, we've got Vinales and it's Bagnaia behind him as well, both closing up on me. I'm going to just manage my fuel on this lap. Well, not manage the fuel because the fuel's fine, but I'm going to change the power mode just depending on whether I'm on a straight or through a corner, because we can't go power mode 2 to the corners. It's just too much skid from the rear tyre. And this is going to mark the first defeat at Jerez in the MotoGP class. I won the last 2 seasons here, once on the KTM, once on the Suzuki. The Suzuki win where I won by around 15 seconds or something like that, so it's ridiculous. But it is wet weather today, and of course we did start from the back. If it was oh, Vinales at the inside through the Cito Pons corner, but he messed himself up a little bit then. That might allow Bagnaia to get past him, and Rossi has now gone down as well. So another crash further back for a Yamaha rider. I'm going to brake nice and early just not to run too wide, but we've now got Pecco Bagnaia all over the back of us, and actually he's through now. Well, I'm back around the outside of Bagnaia, but that came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting him to pass there, and there's no grip from this rear tyre left at all, but I want to hang on to this 5th place. 5th place is not a great result, but I still want it. Unfortunately, that's the 2nd episode in the row that we're going to finish here as well. Similar circumstances, really, just no grip in either tyre, so I can't really push. And Bagnaia's almost hit me at the back there, which actually might have just saved me a little bit. We're around 7 seconds behind Mir. There is definitely one thing about the AI in this game. Obviously, I do slate them for being pretty slow a lot of the time, which can still be said. I've gone from 23rd to 5th, which is still, you know, should be fairly difficult to do, and I did it in about half the race. But once they get out front on their own, they will just do qualifying lap after qualifying lap, even if it is wet and there's no grip or anything like that. But Jorge Martin wins the Spanish Grand Prix then, and we're going to come up towards the line to finish in 5th place. I'm guessing it's Marquez in 2nd and Miller in 3rd. Obviously, we know Mir ahead of us in 4th place. So yeah, that's absolutely right then. Obviously, Jorge Martin wins and ahead of Marc Marquez in 2nd, Miller 3rd, Mir in 4th, myself in 5th, then Bagnaia comes home in 6th, with Vinales in 7th, Morbidelli 8th, Zarco in 9th, and Rins rounding off the top 10. So 3 riders out of the race then. We saw, of course, there was a couple of crashes towards the end for Rossi, Quartararo and Petrucci. I think Petrucci probably got caught up in Quartararo's crash, judging by how close together they actually happened. It is worth noting as well that Savadori managed to beat Marini and Binder. Binder was a few tenths behind Marini. Marini was right behind Savadori. So Savadori actually did a pretty decent job because his AI skill in the game is, well, in the mod is very, very poor compared to the rest of the riders. So he did a pretty decent job to beat both those guys there. I suppose the rain is the great equaliser. I ended up 9 seconds behind an AI, but my pace wasn't actually too bad. If you look, Martin's fastest lap was a 42.3 and mine was a 42.6, and considering how much I was struggling throughout, it actually wasn't too bad, so I'll take that. Of course, the AI can just do qualifying lap after qualifying lap when they're out on their own, so that would explain that. But let's have a look at the championship standings then to see how that shakes things up. I've now got a 15-point lead over Marc Marquez now in 2nd place, so it's a different rider behind us. The gap is pretty similar actually, so not a big deal. I think we've lost 1 point overall. But Mir then in 3rd place, Vinales still sat in 4th, Quartararo moves down to 5th, Morbidelli actually moves up a few positions, even though his result wasn't particularly great, I didn't think. Martin, of course, blasts himself up the order up to 11th, but we still lead then 72 points as well for the number 72, so you can't go wrong with that. Having a look at the Teams Championship, then we actually have moved behind Repsol Honda now. Repsol Honda move ahead of us, obviously with Marquez getting a pretty good result there, beating me. Pramac Ducati and Factory Ducati both jump ahead of quite a few people there as well, up to 5th and 6th places, with Martin's victory definitely assisting with that. Red Bull KTM moved down, same as Petronas Yamaha. They didn't have a very good race, unfortunately for them. Neither, obviously, Quartararo. Quartararo had an abysmal race, so that's not going to help the current leaders, obviously the Yamaha team, the Monster Yamaha team. Looking at the Constructors' Championship though, finally someone other than me actually contributes to the Ducati Constructors' Championship, so we actually extend our lead in the Constructors' Championship despite having a poor race, because Jorge Martin actually won the race, bringing home 25 points, with the Yamaha down in 7th, because Vinales was the top Yamaha, wasn't he, and Bagnaia beat him. So yeah, Yamaha not having a great day. Honda moving ahead of Suzuki, so Honda are climbing back up the leaderboard a little bit now because Marquez had a pretty good race, obviously was 2nd position. So I'll quickly go have a look at those couple of crashes, obviously for Quartararo and for Valentino Rossi, and then we'll head into the career hub, see how much money we get. It should be pretty similar actually to the last episode. So then this is what happened to Fabio Quartararo, because he's trying to go around the outside of Pol Espargaro, goes in hot, clips the grass, and down he goes, and I'm guessing we're going to see Petrucci come flying in a second and collect his bike, unless Petrucci just made the same mistake, potentially. No, that's where Petrucci hit it right at the end, just before he DNF'd. So if we go back to Quartararo, slow it down a little bit, because obviously that was all very fast. So he was going around the outside of Polo Spagro. He lost the rear like I did many times for that corner. If you remember the very close moment with Vinales and Oliveira, and we all sort of lost the rear through there. And he goes wide onto the grass, and usually that would be almost a death sentence anyway in the dry. But in the wet, you're down 100%. There's no way he's staying on that bike. And that's where, obviously, he crashed out of the race. We swap then to Petrucci. Petrucci's going around the corner. He lost the rear actually in a very similar place, just he was not quite so wide because he wasn't trying to go around the outside of anyone. Quartararo's bike is still sliding, you see, it comes back into the circuit. To be honest, not much Petrucci could do. Obviously, he didn't actually try anything to avoid the bike because he's an AI and they don't tend to. But even if he had, I think he probably would have still crashed anyway. If you sat the bike up, that bike would have still slid into your path a little, and you probably would have crashed in the gravel or something like that anyway. So poor Petrucci just got caught up in an incident that wasn't his fault whatsoever. Just going into the corner, just clatters straight into that bike, and down he goes. So that was Danilo out of the race as well. So then next up we have the Rossi crash, and I thought it was going to be something very, very similar, but actually it's not. I'm just going to play it and show you what happens. So you can see Oliveira is actually losing a load of time in front of him, actually. How much time had Oliveira lost? Because Oliveira was behind me at one point. You can see Rossi just then clips the back of him a tiny bit as they flip over. That was enough to unsettle Rossi and have him off. But I have no idea what's happened to Oliveira here, because he was battling with me not too long before that. He was at the lead of the train that I passed, and Rossi was absolutely nowhere near that train. But Oliveira seems to have some sort of problem. He's going very slow. He moves over and just clips Valentino Rossi's front wheel, and that was just enough to knock Rossi off. So in Rossi's defence there, that wasn't Rossi's fault. I kind of assumed that he would have done the stupid AI thing where they just run onto the grass and crash, but no, that actually seemed to be, well, another stupid AI thing, but it wasn't actually his fault by the looks of it. So then, after looking at all those incidents, let's head into the career hub and see what awaits us. So then, from this weekend, we gain 6,500 reputation, which takes up to 880,300. And on the credits front, of course, I'm the only one bringing in any money because the Moto 2 and Moto 3 races didn't get the objectives. So I got 56,250, which takes up to 186,138 credits. On the Moto 2 team, then, we took another big hit from the Prestige, minus 588, obviously with another unfortunate performance, not enough to get in the top 5, but Akagi actually did do a pretty good ride, to be fair to him, with 13th place. But we did gain 300 research data, so that is enough to put the next engine upgrade on, so hopefully the bike will be a little bit better in a couple of races' time. And on the Moto 3 team then, we lost 348 prestige, but again, we've got a fairly high prestige, so it's not too big of an issue, but we are starting to get close to halfway again, which is unfortunate. But we did gain 450 research data, so again, that will be enough to put another engine upgrade on this team. So there will be 2 upgrades coming fairly shortly then, so hopefully the bikes will improve a little bit. So we'll put this engine upgrade on then for the Moto 2 riders, and then the same for the Moto 3 riders over here as well. Actually, which one should we put on? Because we have to pick between the 2 upgrades. This is 2% reliability, and then this is 4% performance. Okay, that's fairly easy to go for then. So that final engine upgrade then on the Moto 3. We have got a couple of notifications on the team planning for next year, though. So, where actually is the notification? Oh, technical director. Now, I don't want to hire anybody new yet. We've got all A pluses saved up, so I'm not going to go for A++, sorry. So I'm not going to go for an A+. Not that it matters, because it's going to be the last season of the career mode anyway. So, planning for next year is not going to be a big thing. We've still got 2 more notifications, though, apparently. I'm not. Oh, on the team manager, I'm just blind and didn't see. So we got another A grade applying and an A+. Again, not going to bother. And then we've got one more thing on our technical staff. Another chief engineer trying to apply for the job. A little bit cheaper, but again, that's not really the money that we're losing here. But that is it for this episode then. Another 5th place on the board. Not the best couple of races. We've had 2 firsts, 2 fifths now, so not been a fantastic season so far. However, the last couple of races have been quite odd in the circumstances. Of course, Termas was cloudy, so I went for the medium tyre when really I probably should have gone for the hard tyre. And then in Jerez, I didn't make a bad tyre choice. The medium would have definitely been better than the soft. The soft would have been terrible. It would have been impossible to ride on the soft tyre on the rear. So I'm glad I went for the medium, but obviously because it's the rain, not much you can do. There's just no temp. Well, actually there was enough temperature on the rear. The rear was sliding because there was too much temperature by the end. At the start it was because there wasn't enough, but once I built it up, it was too much. In the front, there wasn't any temperature. And the AI were just very fast as well, to be fair to them. Obviously, I've got to give them a little bit of credit there. They are fairly good once they get out front on their own, but it is a little bit annoying that it has to be like that. They should just be like that regardless, I think. But I hope you guys did enjoy that episode. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.